Good morning. Another practice session today. Decided to pop out nice bright and early before the heat really sets in. We're going to be about 100 degrees today, and I really don't feel like shooting in that. So I've got a couple of different topics that I had intended to talk about in this particular video, but as I went through the editing process, something stood out to me. If you've watched a couple of these, or even just one other, you will notice that you're basically seeing the same thing over and over and over again. When I get into position, when I range the scope, when I set up to take the shot, heck, when I'm loading the shot, it's the same thing every single time. And this is an important point. You can't get, or it's very difficult to get consistent results if you are not consistent in how you approach the task at hand. This is especially true when shooting spring air guns. Spring air guns recoil multiple times before the pellets even left the barrel, which means that gun's moving around a lot. So when you pull the trigger, the spring drives the piston forward. That's one recoil impulse. When the piston reaches the end of its stroke, it then rebounds or bounces off the cushion of air that's trapped between it and the pellet. That is your second recoil impulse. Now, depending upon the tune of the rifle, the weight of the pellet, so on and so forth, it may bounce a couple times, which add to that. If your position varies from shot to shot, your point of impact is also going to vary from shot to shot. Most people would call this hold sensitivity, which is something that spring guns are kind of known for. You can reduce some of that with tuning, but ultimately, if it's got a spring in it, and more often than not, you're going to have this issue. So consistency is huge. Finding what position it likes, how much force, for example, should the recoil pad be exerting on your shoulder, where's your hand position on the stock, so on and so forth. These all impact where that pellet's going to head. It does make competitive shooting more difficult. As a result, what you're seeing in field target, at least here in the US, is that fewer and fewer people are competing in the piston class, and more people are moving to PCP or pre-charged pneumatic because that recoil is not a factor. That hold sensitivity is not a factor. So again, as you watch these, you'll see that I repeat the same process over and over and over again. And that's important because you're building muscle memory. When you're in a match, you've got many factors that you have to deal with. You've got wind to contend with. You've got weather to contend with. You've got the mirage that you're dealing with that'll distort your view through the scope. All these different things. And if you can simplify things, it's going to make life easier. So by having my shooting position and my steps that I go through in taking the shot memorized and built into muscle memory, that frees me up to then focus on, okay, how much windage do I need to apply to this shot? Is it going to be 2 mils? Is it going to be half a mil? What's it going to be? I can use that mental effort to read the trees. And that's going to be another video. I want to go over how to judge windage and hold off appropriately. That's something, fortunately, I had a really good opportunity to work with some other folks on at the last range day, which was really fun. But yeah, so I guess what I'm saying is if you watch these and you see they're the same thing every single time, I apologize. That's kind of the nature of what I'm doing here. But again, that's something you should strive for yourself. A consistent approach is more often than not going to give you consistent results. And if you're shooting a spring gun, find the position, the hold that it likes best, and repeat that over and over and over again. And that's certainly going to help you. But anyhow, I hope everybody's doing well. The next couple videos that I plan on putting out, I want to look at zeroing your rifle, specifically for windage, the difference in zeroing at 30 yards versus 50 yards, so on and so forth. And again, as I mentioned a moment ago, I also want to go over how to read wind and determine how far to hold off when taking shots in the wind. That's one of those things where really it takes a lot of practice to get good at it, but there's some tricks that you can use. They're going to give you a head start. So I'm looking forward to producing those as well. Anyhow, I'm not going to keep talking your ear off. Hope, again, you guys are doing well. If you have any questions or anything like that, don't hesitate to ask. I'd be happy to help you out. Take care.